TC, I'm gonna switch hats temporarily.
Sounds good
I'm
to
taking
me.
off the Smerch merch.
Okay.
And I'm putting on Bet Parks for good reason.
Feels right.
I think I have to stay up late tonight. That's the one downer because I'm into this now with March Mad. Whoops. With basketball upon us. With basketball upon us. Alabama and San Diego, Creighton and Princeton. That's the game. That's the game.
Oh, for sure.
Because we all love the underdog.
Well,
right?
and everyone's bracket is totally busted, so we might as well root for the Cinderella story. Go Princeton.
Houston, Miami, Texas, and Xavier all play tonight in the next leg of the college basketball tournament.
Correct.
I think they may have changed the time of the Princeton game because
it's always been 9 o'clock.
Has it?
Yeah.
Okay, because originally I thought it was at 7:15, and I was thinking that maybe because of the demand, I was thinking because of the demand in watching that game that maybe they shuffled.
They would make it earlier.
It's a fun time of year.
It's a wonderful
Houston's
time of
a 3.5 to 1, Alabama 3.5 to 1, UConn 4.5 to 1, Gonzaga. Everybody loves Gonzaga. 4.5 to 1. BetParks.com has terms and conditions. See the website for details. Got to be 21 and in Pennsylvania, New Jersey, or Ohio. Have fun tonight. Gambling problem, 1-800-GAMBLER. Time now for the headlines from Smerconish.com, the newsletter. Now we're choreographed today with our hats.
We are.
We had some technical issues yesterday, but now we got it together.
We have got it together.
So that was the exemplar. That was the sample.
Right. So now we are side by side, and you can see that my Smerconish
much larger
is larger than your Smerconish. Correct.
Yeah.
But I like mine.
Okay, I like mine.
Okay.
Do you like my hat?
I do like your hat. I think it's just funny that I have the one and only large one. Yeah.
It's worth a lot.
You know, I maybe
eBay.
Yours is probably better.
Oh, now you're switching.
No, I like mine, but for the sort of general
well, you wear yours
merch,
and I'll wear mine.
No, for the general merch public, I think yours is probably better.
TikTok, TC, TikTok. Let's get to it.
Oh boy.
China says that it would
feels like a Friday all over the place today.
China says that it would strongly oppose a forced sale of TikTok, making clear the government's involvement with the social media giant that's trying hard to distance it. Like, I listened to this guy yesterday, and all he wanted to convey was, no, it's not China. It's us, we're based in the United States. We're in Texas. We have Operation Texas and so forth. But China has already made it clear today they will strongly oppose a forced sale of TikTok. The Ministry of Commerce said that a sale or spinoff of TikTok from its Beijing-based parent ByteDance is subject to Chinese law on tech exports, which requires licenses for the export of certain technology based on national security concerns. So national security was really the most, a lot of issues were raised, but that was the one that came up. And of course, whether people's data is protected against the Chinese Communist Party was another factor. But the one that took my breath away yesterday was the couple from Long Island who were there yesterday as their member of Congress, was explaining that their son had taken his life. They have filed a lawsuit, and they say it's because of the influence of TikTok on him. Headline from the New York Post today, TikTok's toll. Moment LI parents, Long Island parents, confront CEO of app they say drove their son to suicide. It's a horrible story.
It's heartbreaking.
He was bombarded.
It is the definition of heartbreak.
Here's the lead of it. The grieving parents of a Long Island teen who committed suicide after watching hours of psychologically disturbing TikTok videos broke down during a hearing on Capitol Hill Thursday. Dean and Michelle Nasca, whose 16-year-old son Chase took his own life last year after receiving more than 1,000 unsolicited videos of violence and suicide, sobbed as Guy Bilicaris from Florida recounted their son's tragic death. And I'm looking at some of the horrible things that were sent to him, encouraging,
right.
And what ended up happening in his case, February 18, 2022, he's heading home and he stops on the railroad tracks and messages a friend on Snapchat and says, I can't take it anymore. And you can figure out the rest of that story. So that's interesting. And meanwhile, at the same time, Utah becomes, and this is my lead item today at Smerconish.com. Make sure that you you go and read the story. Utah, the first to restrict youth access to social media. I think it's a great move, and there's a piece of exclusive content today at Smerconish.com by Murray Falk, a PhD student in the Department of Land Economy at the University of Cambridge in the UK, talking about how maybe nudges can make social media less harmful. And in the piece, Murray quotes Cass Sunstein, who wrote a book, I think, called Nudge. I remember when he's sitting right here in the studio across from me and having this conversation. He served in the Obama administration. He's married to Samantha Power. The example that stands out in my mind of the subtle changes that can be made that will bring about behavioral differences, opting in or out for organ donation. I don't know if you remember this, but when you poll on the issue and you say, would you be supportive of organ donation? People are like, yeah. And then you compare to how many actually check the box on their driver license, and it's a lot less. And his idea at the time, as I recall, was instead of asking people, do you want to opt in? Let's instead assume people are going to do it, and you still have choice. You can opt out. But now it's incumbent upon you to say, no, I don't want to be an organ donor.
And that would flip the numbers.
That's what nudges are.
So the book is called Nudge, Improving Decisions About Health, Wealth, and Happiness. Cass Sunstein co-authored with Richard Thaler.
So in this, but you know what my recollection is?
Yes.
My recollection is that like the first day that we broadcast from this studio nearly 10 years ago.
Was he one of our guests?
My recollection is that we had two guests, and I think within a day, maybe the same day, both in studio, Cass Sunstein.
Yes.
Do you remember that?
I do.
Okay. Who was the other one?
I'm going to remember. Mark Garagos.
Mark Garagos.
Yes.
Mark Garagos. Yeah.
He sat right there, but it wasn't that chair. It was a different chair.
Yes. It was before I put in the dominating chairs. Correct. Where I can tower over my guests.
Yes.
As they claim.
Right. Right.
As
even
they
Charles
claim.
Barkley.
Charles Barkley. For instance, a simple nudge would automatically alert users of their time on social media after a specific threshold, say 15 minutes of scrolling. This is a change from current practices on platforms like Facebook, which require users to opt in rather than out of such notifications. The power of the nudge is the whole point of the story. Another interesting story from Smerconish.com today. The K-File at CNN with this reporting. Before he represented Trump, defense attorneys speculated Stormy Daniels' saga was true and payment could be seen as an in-kind campaign contribution. Okay, what's the gist of this story? The gist of this story is that Joe Takapina is one of the many lawyers representing Donald Trump, but he's the lawyer now sort of front and center with regard to Alvin Bragg, the Manhattan District Attorney investigation, the whole Stormy Daniels case. Well, this makes sense to me, the part that he has said a lot of things in the past, because he's been a guest of mine. Joe Takapina he's a very good soundbite. So he has been a guest of mine on non-Trump issues, you know, like one of the go-to lawyers when you want somebody who's going to weigh in on a high-profile case. Turns out that he was often a guest in the cable world, including on CNN, talking about the Stormy Daniels case years before he represented Donald Trump. I see your finger is on the button. What are you about to play?
So this is indeed from a CNN hit that Joe Tapachino did. Joe Tapachino.
We get it. Joe.
Right.
Joe T.
2018.
Okay.
There's an issue with that payment to Stormy Daniels being that it was made on behalf of the candidate, okay, and it was not declared. That's fair game, unfortunately, if that's the case. And, you know, quite frankly, you know, Michael Cohen, again, has made statements that would give rise to suspicion for any prosecutor to say, that doesn't make sense, that a lawyer took out a home equity loan with his own money, paid somebody that he didn't even know on behalf of a client who, by the way, had the wherewithal and the money to afford $130,000. Yeah. And, by the way, didn't tell the client about the settlement agreement. It's an illegal agreement. It's a fraud. If that's, in fact, the case, the straight face thing.
It's, I mean, his answer, what are you going to do? Like, what are you going to do if you were, and by the way, with anybody else, you'd be done. But with Trump, I mean, Trump gives everybody second chances. And I think that in Trump's world, you're never dead until you're really dead. And Takapina's response is to say, well, I wasn't privy to the facts. I wasn't totally dialed in then the way that I am now. Takapina also said previously, I've said all along, if he had just come out and said, yeah, I did, meaning with regard to Stormy Daniels, so what? And just chalk that up to another one of the things on his list of minor scandals, he gets through. But she went into great detail about her one-night stand with him. What else can she say? There's nothing else to tell. So a little uncomfortable, but he's still the lawyer in that case. To see more headlines from Smerconish.com, the Friday edition of the newsletter. Is Blockbuster on the verge of a comeback?
No.
Well, what would they?
That's my answer.
What would their business be? So the story that we tagged at Smerconish.com is a story that they touched off a frenzy because they reactivated their website.
They reactivated their
website.
Blockbuster!
And
with the thing saying like we're rewinding. You know what I mean? Like the be kind, rewind. So they're saying like, hey, just we're rewinding. So everyone's going crazy.
There was a story recently at Smerconish.com that the Blockbuster story kinda reminds me of.
Oh.
It was a story about how in 2022, for the first time since the 80s, vinyl, in terms of records, vinyl outsold CDs.
Yes.
And I totally get that because who today is buying a CD, right? Nobody. But I get the nostalgic appeal of listening to vinyl. I have albums.
Why not CDs?
Like, it's hard for me to imitate, but that whole sound of the needle coming. No, TC, come on. You never sat in your room and listened to albums and put on headphones. We've established that.
No, I didn't.
Okay, but it was a wonderful. It's a very important part of many of our youth.
I had a boombox.
I could just see you like this.
I had the CD. What are the things like a singular CD player? I had one of those.
Like a Walkman, but for a CD player?
Exactly, a Walkman.
Okay, what I'm trying to say is this. There is nostalgic.
Very cool.
There is nostalgic appeal in listening to albums even today.
Okay.
Even today.
So you said.
So I understand why vinyl would have outsold CDs last year. CDs are never coming back. There's always going to be a trip down memory lane for the vinyl. But who wants to put a VHS in a machine and watch a movie?
Literally no one.
No
You
one.
have to leave and go to a store and pick it up and then bring it back?
No one.
You don't. I mean, that's ridiculous.
No.
Because you can just dial it up on demand.
Oddly,
are there people that don't? Would it be cheaper? Okay, let's go down this road. Nowadays,
than a streaming service?
Well, but think about it. The streaming services, they don't make it that easy. You have to have, so you're getting all these separate streaming services. Maybe you just want to watch one show on Netflix and then one show on Hulu, and it gets expensive. So are we in a socioeconomic bubble whereby we can afford these things, and will it actually be a good thing to have videos back?
I wish I owned Blockbuster.com, but I want no other part of the business.
Got it. All right, fair enough.
Richard Clark, the former National Security Advisor, emailed me yesterday because we have this ongoing dialogue about baselines. Stories that suddenly take over the media, and everybody thinks that there's a trend out of control. And then you look at the data and compare it to the baseline in terms of, well, where were we on this issue last year or 5 years ago, right? And he sent me a note drawing my attention to another story that's posted at Smerconish.com today. FAA issues safety alert. The Federal Aviation Administration on Wednesday issued a safety alert to airlines, pilots, and others about the need for continued vigilance and attention to mitigation of safety risks after a series of high-profile near collisions. Now the key part that Richard Clark wanted to call my attention to. Quote, while the overall numbers do not reflect an increase in incidents and occurrences.
Why is it then a headline?
So the point is, the FAA has issued a warning to airlines about the recent flurry of near misses. Buried in the warning is an admission that the number of incidents is not above the baseline.
That makes no sense.
It's the summer of the shark.
That makes no sense, though. Why would they issue a warning if it's normal?
They want to call everybody's attention to the need for continued vigilance.
Oh, well, okay.
But TC, it would be like in the summer of the shark. It would be like putting out the word to sunbathers. Hey, there's sharks out there.
As usual.
As usual.
As usual?
As usual. Are shark attacks on the rise? No.
But there are sharks.
It's just classic example.
I don't
get it.
It's
a classic example. No, you do get it. You do get it.
No, I don't get
it's
why
like
you
the
have to
Dominican Republic.
I don't get why you have to do the warning.
Why were people dying in the Dominican Republic? Because people who go down there from America are 60s because they can afford it, and you have heart attacks. It had nothing to do with the mini bars.
Oh, boy.
Baselines. Okay, so let's stick with the air theme for just a moment.
Yes.
We've all heard by now about the Southwest airline flight that was landed because a pilot from a different airline happened to be on board.
Lucky.
When the pilot of that flight became incapacitated, right?
Right.
That part you know. All right. Don't go thinking it means that, hey, we need a volunteer. Who can fly this plane? Because that's not going to happen.
I just love this story that Andrea Sachs writes in the Washington Post. She talked to Patrick Smith, who you've had as a guest on this program before, Ask the Pilot blog.
Right.
And the question is, you're on a flight and a voice comes over. You have no experience, writes Andrea, but you've seen airplane and snakes in a plane. Maybe you've frittered away hours on Microsoft's flight simulator. You throw off your seatbelt and march toward the cockpit, your cape rustling behind you. Hold on, hero, she writes. You might want to return to your seat for this safety check. Patrick Smith says, quote, there is zero chance of someone pulling that off. Do people think they can perform transplant surgery? No. Then why do they think they can land a plane?
What about
it's harder
Woody?
than you think.
What about your dad?
Well, he's a pilot. That's different.
Right, but could he fly a plane like I'm looking at now, a commercial airliner?
He can do anything.
No, seriously, do you think that he could fly that Southwest plane?
I am going to go with, I don't know the answer to that.
I mean, he's a glider.
I would say yes. He has a gliding license, a helicopter license, and a regular pilot's license. So when I tell you he can do anything.
Okay, well, he'd be better than most.
Plus, he's Woody. Like, right. He's awesome. So
whack, whack.
No, excuse you. Listen. I don't need you today. This is outrageous behavior.
Oh, you just wait. Guy, I have one more story that I'm going to get to. Gwyneth Paltrow, ski lawsuit.
Michael, you've been waiting all day to get to that story. All week. All month.
Are we kidding? Gwyneth Paltrow. What I find interesting, because she may or may not take the stand today in this negligence action, she's being sued. What are the liability rules in general? The case hinges on which of the two parties acted in an unreasonable manner while on skis. As far as conduct on ski slopes go, it's almost always the duty of the uphill skier to beware of the downhill skier. In other words, the downhill skier, the person who's further down the slope, has the right of way.
It's like getting rear-ended. Right?
That's exactly what I was going to say.
Exactly that.
Because you have a better view of exactly what's going on.
Even if you stop short, it's the guy behind you's fault for hitting you.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
And finally,
oh boy, here we go.
Representative for Florida House District 71, Will Robinson Jr. By the way, Will Robinson Jr.?
Just stop.
Where have I heard that before?
Danger.
Read a couple of names into the record during a House Civil Justice Subcommittee meeting on Monday. The poor guy, because this has gone viral. How many of these are you going to play?
I mean, it's really the two majors.
All right, go ahead.
Key, Floridization of counties, waves in opposition. Pamela Birch Fort, Florida State Conference of NAACP branches, waves in opposition. Anita Dick is an opponent. Waves in opposition. Holden Hiscock is also an opponent. Waves in opposition.
You're laughing, I'm laughing.
Jimmy, only Jimmy.
I must say, it's like I'll use the word farkling.
Oh, Lord,
which was the word of choice in our house.
Oh, God.
No matter how old I get, I'm still dying when I hear things like that.
Poor guy.
Right? And the poor guy. The poor guy. Committee does not meet again next week. Anita and Holden, please stop by, said the Florida Representative Will Robinson on Twitter.
Oh, good. You know what? You have to own it.
Oh,
you have
my
to.
God.
I mean, he has to own it.
Oh,
That's what I
my
would do if I
God.
did that.
Yeah, you have right.
You can see this whole list, and you don't even. Come on.
Well, there was. You remember? This is not so funny.
Oh no.
You remember when there was an airplane crash?
Stop.
I'm not even going to tell the story.
Okay, don't tell the story. Don't tell the story.
Yeah.
Bad.
Yeah. All right. Well, on that note.
On that, it's all you wanted.
Wait, let me look at your hat again.
Okay.
Nice. Very good.
By the way, people
you like
on
my
YouTube
hat?
are liking my hat.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, that's not for sale.
No.
This is.
Yeah.
Okay.
Buy 2 of them.
Buy
That'll
2.
make up for it.
There you go. Go get some Smerch merch at
Smerch merch.
Smerconish.com. Listen to TC After Dark, how to make a whiskey sour.
Oh, and also Coke and a Diet Coke and champagne mix.
Not interested in that.
Courtesy of Tom Hanks.
Still not
And
interested
Stephen
in
Colbert.
that. Not interested. Ladies and gentlemen, tomorrow morning, 7:30, preceding the CNN program, YouTube Live, 7:30 on a Saturday morning. And then CNN at 9 a.m. And so long as there's no breaking news, the show replays at 3 p.m. Eastern time. So those of you on the West Coast, no more excuses.
You've been a little lucky about that, by the way. Every Saturday, I'm thinking, no way, no way, no way.
I think as the
And,
presidential race really heats up, that I'll get knocked out.
Yeah.
But
So far, so good.
So far, so good.
Yeah.
All right. Have a good weekend. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching.